I'm Riley Reese. This is the Sophia Unfiltered podcast, where we bring together thought leaders, wellness entrepreneurs, makers, and emerging health leaders. I'm grateful to talk to these brilliant minds and share their powerful stories with you. And I especially love listening to the conversations that are led by my friend and co-host, Lauren Deitch. Lauren is a health coach, a life coach, and a counseling practitioner. She's been part of the Sophia family since the early days. We're here to have raw, unfiltered conversations because sharing your stories has the power to change lives, help others heal, and transform the way we take care of ourselves. I'll let Lauren fill you in on her guest today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sophia Unfiltered. Today, we are sitting down to talk with Kerry Tuschhoff. She is the founder and director of Hypnobaby's childbirth hypnosis. Kerry is a nationally renowned speaker and writer on a wide range of pregnancy and childbirth concerns. Her subjects include fertility, prenatal and childbirth choices, informed consent issues, health and low-risk status concerns, comfort during childbirth, the power of birth language, and midwifery advocacy. As a childbirth educator since 1989, a doula, and a hypnotherapist, Kerry has developed many educational programs for pregnant people, birthers, medical and childbirth professionals, and hypnotherapists. These efforts have become immensely popular and have started to chain react and gain interest in change in the way that we give birth today, how our newborns are cared for, and the way that natural childbirth is perceived by the general public, as well as the medical community. Kerry is a very comprehensive childbirth program of her own called Hypnobaby's Childbirth Education, in which she offers a unique program of trained hundreds of thousands of students to use medical-grade hypnosis techniques to give birth in a much easier and more comfortable way. Kerry, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate being here, and I just love talking about how to make pregnancy and birthing and postpartum better, as well as how to get people pregnant.
Oh, our listeners are going to be so excited. Yes. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to begin and specialize in such a beautifully unique aspect of the health and wellness community.
I had gotten married, and a friend who was at the same church as us was having her first baby. And I was absolutely fascinated by her birth story, because she had her baby naturally. She used the Bradley method, which is a natural childbirth method. And she said it hurt like crazy, but she did it. And she went on to have 4 more babies naturally. But I was so fascinated because I didn't think people did that. I thought they just went in, had their epidural or Demerol or something. So I started doing some research, and I found the Bradley method, and I wanted to become an instructor. So they let me become an instructor, even though I'd never had a baby. And I was just jazzed. After I got trained there, I was trying to get pregnant myself. And I was teaching these people and being their doula as well for a lot of my students. And it was hard for them. They did it, but they were yelling through the whole thing, and that was difficult for me as a doula. I thought this wasn't, I don't know, not what I had pictured, but I didn't know because I hadn't had a baby. And then I got pregnant, and of course I thought I knew everything about having a baby, having been an instructor, reading all this stuff, doing research. And then of course I went into my birthing. I had my baby, and my first, she was posterior, so her head was turned around, and was kind of scraping on the nerves all the way down my spine for 36 hours, and I was screaming my head off. There wasn't any relaxing to be done. It was so painful, I couldn't believe it, and nothing I did helped or worked, and I ended up going from the birth center across the street to the hospital and having an epidural. And as I often tell people, I was never so happy in the world to see anyone as I was that anesthesiologist. And I had to hold still while he put this huge needle in my spine. And I was happy to do it because after that, for 6 hours, I had an epidural in my body and I could finally rest and kind of come down off of the terror of what I had just experienced. And then she had to be pushed and pulled out of my body because I couldn't push properly. But I was traumatized. I will tell you that. I was traumatized by my experience, but I gained a very healthy respect and understanding about why and how people would choose an epidural or a different way, because I had thought everyone should have natural childbirth, and that's just not the case. So I became a very well-rounded childbirth educator after that. And I continued to teach the Bradley method, and 4 years almost to the day that I had my daughter, I had my son, and his birthing was only 7 hours long, but he was also posterior, and I was screaming my head off in pain. So literally during one really gnarly contraction, which we call birthing waves at Hypnobabies, my sister was holding my hands, my husband was pressing on my back, and I was just screaming. And when it was fading away, I looked up into my sister's tear-stained eyes, and she was crying, and she just said, "It should never have to be this hard." And it's like a light bulb went on over my head that was true. That I just felt like it was true. Like I didn't know what it was or how it was going to happen, but it had to be different. So for people who wanted a natural birth, and I just decided right then and there that I was going to find a way, a method, some things, some techniques, whatever it took, that my students that I loved so much and who were also my doula clients would not have to suffer like that. And it took me a few years, but I saw a TV show about hypnosis for childbirth where literally an obstetrician was teaching his patients who wanted it self-hypnosis, and they were going through their births, and it was fascinating to me. So I was online and I looked up this hypnosis for childbirth and found a program that taught you how to teach it, and I became a practitioner. And I was a little curious about it because it didn't work for me. Let's just put it that way. It didn't have a lot of hypno in the birthing. And I was also teaching it to begin with and being a doula to my students, and they were looking not much different than my other students, my Bradley students had been. So I knew this wasn't it. It wasn't what I was looking for. It might be fine for some people, and that's great. And I don't, I'm happy for anybody who helps pregnant people. But it wasn't what I was looking for. So I did go out and start taking hypnosis trainings and specialty trainings. And one of the specialty trainings that I took was Gerald Kine's Painless Childbirth Program. And that is a program that he developed for hypnotherapists to use in their office, one-on-one with a pregnant person, teaching them self-hypnosis. And I knew that the techniques were what I wanted because they were hypnoanesthesia, meaning that there are people, for instance, who have to have surgeries of all kinds, dental or medical surgeries, but they can't use medical anesthetics because they're allergic to them. So they work with a hypnotist ahead of time, and they use these techniques during the surgery. And so the surgery is felt as, a pushing or pulling or stretching kind of sensation instead of cutting and, the things that we associated with surgery. So I knew that was the kind of hypnosis it was. It was a very deep form of hypnosis called somnambulism, and the techniques themselves were hypnoanesthesia. So I took that course and I asked Jerry, whose program it was, if I could put these techniques into a childbirth education program, because it was very important that people get their childbirth education at the same place they got their birth hypnosis. I learned that from teaching the other method. And he said, great, I can't wait to see what you create. And that was 21 years ago, and the rest is history. And we've had hundreds of thousands of people do hypnobabies in different ways, whether it's in a group class or our home study course. And it's so gratifying. It's the most amazing thing. I love my job.
I love that. And it's just kind of that full circle moment, like you were describing with your sister, where she's looking at you and she's like, there has to be a different way. And it really encompassed your life's mission around supporting women give birth in a way that's different. And that's just so incredible. And I'm sure that our listeners are going to be all on board with this. So walk us through the basics. Let's start with just what is hypnotherapy? And then how is that different from hypnoanesthesia?
Well, let's talk about hypnosis itself, because most people think that hypnosis is either, following a watch or what they see in a stage show, maybe at the fair or someplace where the hypnotist is actually quite skilled at picking people out of the audience who want to play the game and be part of the show and be silly and all of that. But that's not therapeutic hypnosis. Therapeutic hypnosis is a very focused form of concentration that has a goal. So we are in states of hypnosis all the time, every single day. For instance, when we're going to sleep and waking up, when we're reading anything, if we're watching a screen of any kind, and any of us know who's tried to get somebody away from a screen who's playing a video game, that they are in the zone. And that is because their subconscious mind has basically taken over. So you can call their name as many times as you want, but they're in hypnosis. And that happens to all of us. If we watch a screen for any length of time, we go into a hypnotic state. Anytime we're daydreaming or driving, and a lot of us have experienced that thing where you're driving along and you're thinking about what's going to happen when you get to your destination, whatever that might be, very focused on it, and all of a sudden you're there, or you're at a stoplight and you cannot figure out where the last 5 minutes went. That's hypnosis. So we're in a state of hypnosis all the time anyway. But with hypnotherapy or therapeutic hypnosis, which is what is in Hypnobabies, we're doing it for a purpose. We are trying to achieve a specific depth of hypnosis. And when I say depth, there are different states of hypnosis, like the alpha state that we all get into when we are driving, when we are watching a video game or a movie or something like that, reading. And it's kind of light. Your brain waves do slow down a little bit. But what we're doing when we guide somebody into a very deep state of hypnosis that they need to create what we call hypnoanesthesia is they need to get to a theta state, which is when your brain waves really slow down, really very, very slow. And then you get to what we call somnambulism. And in that state, your body will create what you direct it to create. So very specifically in our Hypnobabies tracks, audio tracks that we have, we guide you through a process of learning how to do self-hypnosis, how to feel really relaxed in it, because we're relaxing the body and then the mind, and then accept suggestions that are actually compounded 1 week on top of the next week on top of the next. We keep adding more hypnosis and more techniques so that your inner mind is accepting the fact that the sensations of birthing are going to be there, but they're going to be pushing, pulling, stretching, tightening, baby movements type of sensations instead of all the pain associated with it. And because you can actually have surgery with this kind of hypnosis, we can have a baby with it. And our inner mind is trained that when we use a few cue words or a physical cue like the hand on the shoulder or forehead that the birth partners learn, or our hypnodoulas, that the body becomes even more relaxed, that it releases even more hypnoanesthesia, exactly where the birthing person needs it to be. So ahead of time, when they're pregnant, they're listening, they're reading the materials, because that's an important part of it, is reading the Hypnobabies materials, and then they're listening to the tracks in the exact order as directed all the way until their birthing time. And then there are tracks that they can listen to during their birthing time to activate the cues, to keep them in hypnosis, to keep them very, very relaxed all the way from the top of their head down to the tip of their toes, and anywhere in between that they need more relaxation, hypnoanesthesia, or whatever they need. These tracks are designed to keep them in hypnosis and much more comfortable, but they can also do the cues and techniques on their own, either inside their head because they're there, or with their birth partner or hypnodoula reading them what we call birth prompts, which are little written snippets of the cues that they have basically embedded in their subconscious mind for the last few months. And those activate their cues from the outside in. So it's really a fascinating process. It's very easy because you need to get into a comfortable, relaxed position and listen to tracks that are telling you how wonderful your birthing is going to be. And you need to be dedicated to taking that time every single day to doing that. But, the results are pretty amazing, even to me sometimes. And that doesn't mean that every single person is going to have a pain-free birth or 100% comfortable birth or anything like that. Everybody's is different. The dynamics of the birthing are different. Everything works a different way when you're having your baby. But I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference to people who learn, practice, and use hypnobabies as we direct them to. So, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
I just think it's so incredible. And especially, I'm so grateful that you explained for our listeners, like the process, because I do feel like there's a lot of mysticism associated with hypnotherapy and hypnosis. And the reality is that we are bombarded with different ways that our brain engages and different levels that our brain engages with the different things that we do on a daily basis, and things like, oh yeah, this happens when you're driving, or when you're really engaged with a video game or a TV show or something like that. And I think even just listening to you talk, or it's like, okay, we've seen that our mind holds this incredible key to the rest of our body's responses, our emotional well-being, our physical well-being. And when we activate the self-awareness and the self-discipline to utilize that as a power that we're consciously choosing to engage with, it can truly change the way that we not only give birth, but just so many different ways that we engage with the world around us. So
it's true. And hypnosis can be used for so many things because it's basically retraining your subconscious mind. So you have your conscious mind, you have a layer in between, which is the critical faculty, and it's kind of like the guardian. And then you have the subconscious mind. And in hypnosis, we're making the guardian take a nap, and we're actually putting in or allowing the subconscious mind to now accept a new belief system about whatever it is, whether we're trying to eliminate a phobia, or the fear of flying, or stop smoking, or whatever. We're basically retraining that subconscious mind that governs everything anyway. We might as well use it to the max in a way that's very, very positive. So that's really what the basis of hypnosis is.
Just so incredible. I just get so down the rabbit hole with anything psychology based and how our brain works and how we can really just utilize it for so much good in our lives. And I love this approach. All right. So sticking with the theme of childbirth, let's start from the moment we decide that we want to go down the fertility journey. So walk us through how you've started integrating and seen success with using hypnosis for not only the person trying to conceive, but the partners trying to conceive, and what that process looks like.
Well, it's pretty cool because I love getting people pregnant because the people who are trying to get pregnant really want to be pregnant. And I know what that's like. And it just means the world to them, and it means the world to me to help. So we developed our fertility enhancement course. And what that is it's a series of 4 hypnosis tracks. So what I've seen in the past, which I didn't want, was somebody just listening to one track over and over and over again, saying, relax and you'll get pregnant. Because we know that's not actually the way it works. It helps. So what this is it's 4 hypnosis tracks, one for each week of the cycle, to help you work with your body and work with your emotions and work with your mind to create the best possible reactions in the body to getting pregnant. So that first week, the second week, the releasing of, the embryo, ovulation, conception, picturing all of that. And in hypnosis, this is not just guided visualization or a relaxation system. And then, if we don't get pregnant, then there is a track that says we're just going to flow on into the next cycle, in peace and security. And if we get pregnant, then part of that track is that we are nurturing this pregnancy to fruition, and there is a way to see ourselves either way, whether we have conceived or not conceived, carrying a child all the way through and giving birth to that child. And there is a huge amount of statistics and studies and research done on visualization and how that can really help. And we know that, oh my gosh, athletes and speakers and all kinds of people, they do visualization so that when they get to the place where they want to be, that they need to utilize that for, they've practiced it so many times, their body just takes over. And so that's part of this system as well. So there are 4 hypnosis tracks for the person who is trying to get pregnant, and there are 4 affirmations tracks. And just like in Hypnobabies, where we have our affirmations tracks that our pregnant people listen to, it's working from the outside in to counteract the negativity that is coming at them. Now, we all know, and this is just a fact, that if you're trying to get pregnant or you are pregnant, there's a lot of negative energy out there, a lot of messages out there, a lot of people. Sometimes our students will go on forums or groups where everyone's trying to get pregnant, and the energy there is very tense and stressful, and it's hurting, and hurtful when somebody doesn't get pregnant. And when somebody does get pregnant, it's hurtful also. You know what I mean? So with our pregnant students, we want them to listen to affirmations that are all about that particular week and stay in a positive frame of mind on the outside. And on the inside, the hypnosis is working its magic. And when I say magic, it's because it's glorifyingly relaxing and calming and encouraging and confidence building information that is being entrained into your subconscious mind about getting pregnant and carrying a baby to term and giving birth. And then, of course, we have a hypnosis track for the father to be and an affirmations track for him as well, so that he can relax during this time, that he can visualize what is happening when they are trying to get pregnant, instead of it being a chore, it being a spiritual, emotional thing for him, that he can see his own baby coming to him. And it's amazing. It is amazing what we can do with our minds. And we've gotten a lot of people pregnant. So it makes me very, very happy.
I love that. And I think that there's just so much truth behind your practice and what you've discovered to be so powerfully empowering for people. Is there's this natural compartmentalization that most people expect in society today, where it's like, well, I'm either not pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or I've given birth. And it's just like, why do we compartmentalize such a massively intentional part of creation in life? And it's just so empowering to hear that not only are you trying to rework the mindset around that entire process, but you're also inviting this healing for the collective to come into that. And I think that one of the parts of this fertility journey that you were speaking about within your program that was just so incredibly powerful to think about is reconnecting with your cycle each week. Because I feel like too, we've compartmentalized, I'm either menstruating or I'm not, or I'm either ovulating or I'm not. And it's almost like this Excel spreadsheet around our reproductive health. And there's so much science coming out to support that, depending on what cycle a woman is in, their energy, their nutrition, their physical, emotional, all of the different things are in this beautifully sync type of aspect. And I just think that it's so incredible that you're drawing attention to the connection of cycle, connection to self, and then inviting the visualization to combat the fear mongering that is around that. I mean, you even touched on how there's this guilt on, oh, I didn't get pregnant this month, or, oh, I did get pregnant this month and other people are trying so hard, I should feel guilty about conceiving. So I think that with those affirmations in connection with the visualization, the brain training, the hypno process, it's just incredibly healing on so many different levels. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you do. So yes to all of the things.
Thank you. I just want to say that we do have people getting pregnant just by listening to the tracks, but we do have a lot of people as well who are on their journey of having implantation of different kinds, having fertility treatments of different kinds, using drugs of different kinds, and that this goes right along with that, to really just enjoy the process, just relax through the process, just focus through the process as far as, visualizing what is happening in your body and having your mind help you with all of that. So I'm happy with whatever way that people get pregnant, that we can be a part of it and help.
Absolutely. And being able to personalize that journey, right? To your point, it's like, regardless of what medical or non-medical decisions that you make that best support you and your family planning, it sounds like to me like you're saying that your program can support them and meet them in a way that personalizes the experience for them. So that's absolutely incredible. And I'm all about personalizing those things, because I feel like so many people, regardless of what their goals are within their health and wellness journey, they tend to think that if something worked for someone else, then if I do the exact same thing in the exact same way, then it'll work for me. And for some people, yes, that can be true, but it also takes away the autonomy of personalizing it. And if we can personalize it, then it's something that's sustainable. And I think that that kind of goes back to that fear mongering, the emotional aspects that are attached to conception, but also around the pregnancy itself, where there tends to be a lot of what is quote unquote normal for being pregnant and giving birth. So I'd love for you to continue your explanation on, once we've conceived, how does your program and hypnotherapy support somebody with that at that point?
Well, this touches a very special place in me because our pregnant people they're so happy to be pregnant, most of them, the ones who have been on a fertility journey. And we don't call it infertility, we call it fertility, because it's important that we use positive language, because certain words, what's called emotional meanings, connotations to them. So if you say infertility, it automatically brings up images, and that's the mind's language, is images of struggle. So we say fertility because fertility is what we want. So we're going to focus on what we want. And if we have a chance, I'll tell you how that works with our pregnant people as well. But so it's important to me and to everybody else to have some sort of way to counteract all the negative messaging that comes at us when we're pregnant. Right from the very beginning, people are telling us what to do and what not to do, and don't have a home birth, don't get a midwife, go to this doctor, don't eat that food, coffee's bad for you, and on and on and on. And people will come as you get bigger and put their hands right on your abdomen and feel like they have the right to tell you how awful their own birth was. So when we're pregnant, we are more vulnerable and we're more suggestible because we're more emotional, because we have a lot at stake. We have our own health and the health of our babies, and how are we going to get this baby out? The birthing itself, and then what's it going to be like to be a new parent, whether it's my first child or whether I have 5 already. How is this all going to fit into my life? So there's a lot, and that's just for the pregnant person. And usually the pregnant person has a partner, and the partner is going through their own stuff, which is why in Hypnobabies we have a hypnosis track just for the birth partners to stay calm and relaxed during the pregnancy and during the childbirth experience. But back to the pregnant people, right from the very first moment they open up their Hypnobabies course, whether it's a home study course or whether they're at a Hypnobabies instructor-led class, they have positive messages. They have positive wording. They have positive language. They have a whole new world that is telling them that childbirth and new parenting and the rest of their pregnancy can actually be an extremely positive and wonderful phase of life. And this is how. So it's not just saying that, it's giving them a blueprint on how to do that, and they become really calm. You see the difference in our students by week 2 of reading the materials and listening to their very first 2 tracks. They have 2 tracks to listen to in the first week that are alternate. One track one day, next day a different track, and so on. And each of these messages, just right starting off, is all about changing the actual programming. We'll call it programming that you've had for your entire life, or with previous births of yours or other people that you know, or the people that come up and tell you their birth stories, or the ones that you read online. We're creating a new reality. And it is huge. That is a gift that they're giving themselves. And then as they move on, it's much more about childbirth itself and how they can create their own birthing. They can learn, and they do, how to decide what birthing choices they want. Because the most important thing that we can impart to our students, above and beyond even the hypnosis, is that all decisions are theirs to make. Whether they're in pregnancy, birthing, postpartum, or their baby's care, they get to choose every single decision. It belongs to them. The pregnant person, if she has a partner, they go right along with it, and that nobody can make them do anything that they feel uncomfortable about. So if there's one takeaway from this show right now, it's that you, pregnant person, are always in charge of everything. There isn't a way for them to make you or even allow you do anything. You tell them how you want to do the rest of your pregnancy. If you'd like to be induced or not be induced. How would you like to give birth? It's your choice. How would you like to be treated postpartum? How would you like your baby to be treated? It's all yours to choose. And it's amazing the language that is used by medical professionals, and I'm not bashing them, but they are able to use language. They are taught language that basically seems like that the pregnant person doesn't have a choice. Not true. It's just never true. As a patient of any kind, I don't care whether you're going in for heart surgery or to have a baby, before, during, after, and baby's care is all up to you. They get to make suggestions. They get to say, this is what we advise. And then you get to step back, if it's not an emergency situation, and decide what you will choose in anything, whether it's testing prenatally, whether it's something that has been presented to you during your birthing time or afterwards with your postpartum care of the babies. You get to say yes or no. So our students learn the benefits, the risks, and the alternatives of all of the common, what other people call interventions when you're in your birthing. But we call them choices. So the benefits, the risks, and the alternatives to all of these things. And then they get to make their own decisions. And we're not pushing them in any particular way. But that information, all of the childbirth education that we teach, nutrition, exercise, staying healthy and low risk, stages of birthing, all the different birthing positions, all of the written materials and things that we teach as far as childbirth education is just as important to creating the kind of birthing that you want as the hypnosis is.
Absolutely. Well, and I think like to your point, like the big takeaway is empowerment through choice, right? And I think that so many families and individuals look to these quote unquote experts to really dictate those decisions for them, which can be the opposite of, it's very disempowering where it's like, well, someone knows better than me about X, Y, or Z. So it creates this mistrust of self and this like second guessing and doubt and all sorts of things, which is not good for any kind of experience. But what I love about what you're describing is not only the liberation to choose what is intuitively correct for you and your family, but also boundaries, right? I mean, to your point, you were talking about how as you begin to show more, people feel that they are entitled to begin to touch your abdomen or share their unsolicited opinions and different things like that. And it's almost a societal expectation to just accept that as, well, I'm pregnant. This is just how people are going to treat me. Whereas absolutely not. Like you have the power to choose and use the right language and speak up and make the choices that are best for you and your family. And I just think that that's so encouraging for anybody who is in this journey, beginning this journey, continuing this journey, to really advocate for yourself and advocate for the choices that you have access to. That's absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I want to say one more thing regarding that, what you just said. And that is that, yes, people do come up to you and want to tell you their terrible birth story. So let's talk about that for a second, because it's really super important for all pregnant people. I'm all for people talking about their birthing. I have heard thousands and thousands and thousands of birth stories, not just Hypnobabies birth stories either. And I'm all for people wanting to tell their birth story and being able to be heard. And the time to tell those birth stories, if they are negative ones, if they have things in them that would make the pregnant person you're talking to doubt their choices or be frightened, the time to tell them is not when that person is pregnant and or just about to have a baby, like say at a baby shower, because we are more vulnerable. As I said before, we're more suggestible when we're pregnant, and we do not want to let fear take over. A big thing in Hypnobabies is fear clearing, and we do have an entire track all about fear clearing, so that if somebody has been exposed to negative stories or whatever, or just negative attitudes from family members or coworkers or whatever, or even online, because everyone wants to go online and read everybody else's birth stories, it's important to clear that and know that this is your birthing, that's not your birthing. So it's important to clear that first of all. But one nice thing to do, if somebody starts telling you their birth story and it is not a positive birth story, is to just put your hand gently up and say, hey, what I would like to know from you right now is, what was the most beautiful thing you can remember from your own birthing? So instead of them continuing on about the nightmare that they experienced, now they're going to start thinking about that moment when they first held their child, or when they first bathed their baby, or when they found out the sex, or when their partner was able to cut the cord and he was crying. They're going to have to think about it. So it's of benefit to them to associate their birth story with something positive now. And it's also a benefit to you, because you're not listening to something negative anymore. You're listening to something really positive about birthing. And this is a way that everybody can win. And I think that it's important not to just shut people down. Stop talking, stop it. But give them the opportunity to continue speaking, but about something really beautiful.
Absolutely. We not only have to teach others how we want to be treated, but it's also an invitation for them to meet us where we want, right? And to your point, it's the power of language. And if we can invite them to utilize their stories, which they're simply just trying to commune with us in that instance where they're like, oh, you're pregnant, let me share with you my pregnancy story. We can invite that to be a positive share instead of a fear-mongering reliving of whatever that might be. And to say that we're not trying to discount or door slam or, put up any kind of separation from that person reaching out, simply trying to connect, but we're simply inviting them to meet us to where we're hoping to cultivate that positive mindset, that subconscious reprogramming. So I think that's absolutely such a beautiful clarification.
Yeah. And we need to do the retraining from the inside out with the hypnosis and from the outside in with positive energy from other people, with the affirmations that our students listen to, that constantly keep them in a positive frame of mind. So taking responsibility for what other people are saying to us is a major step.
Oh, so beautiful. And such a great tip just with life in general. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the next phase then, where after we have experienced our birth with the hypnotherapy and the different aspects that we've created and personalized for our experience, and now we have this beautiful being of creation in our world. Talk to us about that next step with postpartum breastfeeding and caring, with the benefits of your program and using hypnotherapy to care for yourself and your new baby.
Well, it became really clear after a few years of teaching hypnobabies and having it used all over the world that our students were wanting to use hypnosis after the baby came. So that made a lot of sense. And we asked them, what areas would you like to have your hypnosis work for you? And so there were a couple that were super important. So the very first one that came out was called, the track is called After Your Baby Comes. And it is a way for you to still use a deep relaxation and peace and calming after the baby comes that feels so much like what you practiced in hypnobabies, just calm and joyful. And the messages, the compounded hypnosis messages, are all about feeling confident as a new parent and sleeping in sync with your new baby and being able to breastfeed if that's what you choose, and being confident about your choices for your baby. Because this is another one of the areas that people find after they've had a baby, that everybody comes out of the woodwork and tells them how to care for that child. And I am a firm believer that in 99.9% of the cases, the only person who knows the most about caring for that baby is the baby's birthing parent. So their mom, the parent that gave birth to them. And if they are given the chance to have that time to really learn how to be in sync with that baby and feel confident about it, oh my gosh, they'll just start getting into a rhythm just like that. And that's what this track is all about, allowing them to feel really good and confident about doing that themselves. And they also asked for a breastfeeding track. So we have our breastfeeding success track. And that is about basically relaxing and being able to use the relaxation to let milk flow, let down, even nipple soreness, and basically create a positive breastfeeding relationship between the mother and the baby as long as breastfeeding lasts. And it's helped a lot of people get off to a good start, because there are people who either they're having their first baby and they're very nervous about breastfeeding, and people are watching them, like they may have a bunch of aunties or sisters or whatever, and everyone's watching them and no one else has nursed their baby, so they don't know. But you're trying to do it, so this lets you just relax and be calm and confident that you can do it. And have plenty of milk, of course. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful track. we also have our new parent affirmations. This is not a hypnosis track, so it can be listened to anytime. None of the hypnosis tracks that I mention can be listened to when you're just walking around. They need to be their actual deep hypnosis tracks that you have to be laying down and relaxing for the 30 minutes that it takes, so that your body is completely relaxed, and that will let your mind absorb the messages. So we're not walking around. But affirmations, like the new parent affirmations, is great stuff. It's all about, calm and confidence after the new baby comes, and feeling good about yourself. You're hearing it, as you drive, or as you just, feed your baby, whatever. You can listen to it anytime, but then it moves on to people who have toddlers and littles, who we need to remember all the time that they're not giving us a hard time, they're having a hard time. And we need to, instead of basically letting them pull us into their storm, we need to pull them into our calm. You know what I mean? There's a lot of messages about staying calm and relaxed and in control, and feeling really good about it, and doing some introspection and taking the time that we need for ourselves as a parent. So those affirmations have been a big hit.
I would imagine so, because to your point, there's so many expectations, books, research on what you should do. I always call, when we start seeing and using language that has the word should in it, that's a really great indicator to check in with ourselves and pause, because are those somebody else's expectations and guidelines, or are they our own? And are they in alignment with our values and our priorities? And to your point, it sounds like so much of the reprogramming, the support, and the benefits behind utilizing hypnosis and hypnotherapy throughout the entire process is so much around the personalized intentionality of reframing how we engage with not just ourselves, but our family. And there's so much empowerment. I wish that people could see your face and just look at how just beautifully calm. I mean, you really do glow when you talk about this, and you can tell just how passionate you are about your work. And how could you not be, right? I mean, just simple language changes or affirmations as reminders of your intentionality. I feel like so often we get stuck on this, got to get to the next thing, got to zoom to the next thing, or, oh, my kid's driving me crazy. There's so much language today around social media and all of these things where we're bombarded with the burdens of parenting and going through life. And it's the line that you just used around, inviting them into your calm instead of walking into their storm was just so beautifully moving, because of my decade in education, I feel like that was such a huge aspect of the relationships that I built with the students that I had over the years. And I can only imagine what the work would be with parenting if we could invite that mindset reframe into how we communicate with these little humans that are forming. Oh, and could you even imagine how they become these beautifully conscious adults? Just pure magic.
There's a lot to know about words too. Like in Hypnobabies, we teach our students to focus on what they want and not what they don't want. So instead of sitting around saying, I don't want a cesarean, I don't want a cesarean, they're thinking, I want a beautiful birthing. I want to push that baby out easily, that sort of thing. Because if you think about it, your subconscious mind is going to give you what you focus on most. Whatever you're concentrating on the most, it's like a 5-year-old child sitting back there going, all right, I'll try to make that. So you definitely want to focus on what you want to create for your own birthing. And the same is true when we're dealing with our children. So instead of saying, no, you can't do that right now, say, we're going to do such and such right now. And if you start the day you bring them home from the hospital or birth center, or the day after they're born in a home birth, and you start talking to them and you bring them up with telling them what you want and what's going to happen, they will, by the time they get to be toddlers and learn that word no, and you say the words, we're going to, instead of saying no, you can't, or no, we're not, you can say, we're going to do this now, and then maybe later we'll do that. And they'll be like, I've heard that all my life. So it's the same thing if they're running towards the street and you yell, don't go in the street, you'll get killed. The mind jumps right over the word don't. And so they hear a message they're not supposed to hear. So instead, we say to them, stay on the sidewalk. It's much safer there with mommy. Come here, take my hand. That's what you want them to do. So if we brought our kids up like that, they would be much more responsive to the positive side of language messages. And we would never have to go into that, no, you can't, no, you don't, no, we're not, and use all the negativity. There you go. That's
I could not agree more with you. As a student of language, we could have an entire episode on that alone.
And
so yes, to all of the things. Exactly. Okay. As we are coming to a close on our conversation today, we always like to ask our guests, what is one misconception about living well that you wish that you would have learned sooner? And I feel like obviously so much of your work is busting these misconceptions with support and changing the way that people, go about their days. But what would be your one misconception
for myself,
that you wish that you could have learned sooner?
That I learned?
You could, either way. Sure.
I wish I would have known about hypnosis when I had my babies. If I knew the power of it for everything in life, it would have made a huge, huge difference during my pregnancies, during my births, and after my babies came. And even after that, at Hypnobabies, we have tracks for stress and anxiety, for relaxing deeply throughout the entire body for people who have difficulty relaxing different parts of their body. We have weight loss. We have stop smoking. We have focus and concentration for people who have those issues. If I would have known for myself and my family the power of hypnosis before, oh my gosh, it would have made a huge difference. But I didn't learn it till later. So now you all know, and you can go out there and seek out ways to hypnosis for your own self and your family.
Absolutely. And part of that is your life's calling now, is sharing that lesson that you wish you would have learned sooner with as many people as possible. So thank you for putting that out into the world. If our listeners want to connect with you further and dive into all of the wonderful work that you are putting out into the world, what social channels would you like them to reach out to you through?
Well, we have a website. It's hypnobabies.com. We have a store with all kind of good stuff, tracks and courses and all kind of stuff. And it's hypnobabies-store.com. We are Hypnobabies on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Pinterest. So we like to put out videos. Lately, we've been putting out a lot of short videos to really explain frequently asked questions about Hypnobabies, about hypnosis, about classes, about self-study, all of that. So follow us.
Absolutely. Kerry, thank you so much for just sharing your time, your wisdom, and just your beautiful gifts with myself and our listeners today.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been Sophia Unfiltered, a podcast by Sophia Health. I'm your host, Lauren Deitch. If you're interested in connecting to wellness professionals that can offer one-on-one support, visit sophiahealth.com or connect with us, our community, and providers anytime on social. If this episode resonated with you at all, we'd love to hear about it in the comments section of your favorite podcast provider or with a 5-star rating. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was from the episode, or share it with someone you hope to inspire. Join us again next time for more real conversations, stories, and insights that help empower you with the knowledge and inspiration needed to transform the way we take care of ourselves.